Hello and welcome to Archery at Home. I'm your host, Olympian Patrick Huston. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope I'll be able to teach you some interesting stuff about directions through the front end of the shot, into the follow through, into the target, something that will really help your groups get better, and honestly it's one of the biggest things I've learned in my archery career. Today we're going to be learning about direction into the target. That's a movement, a process that happens inside the shot, a force through your front shoulder, and then that carries on through the follow through and directs into the target. We'll also then learn, as the secondary part of that, how to control our follow through. These are things which are specifically related to the bow arm, but has a connection through the entire body. We're going to start off with banded protractions, just as a little bit of warm up before we get into, may as well show you so you know what I'm on about, direction through the front arm. Okay, so we're going to start off with banded protractions. So we'll start off with the band held shoulder width apart with our arms neutral. And now what we're going to do is press the band really far forward. Really far forward. And then we'll retract the band in back towards ourselves. Keep the head tucked. Forward. And now we'll loosen the clinny band a little bit so we go a little wider. And then we just reach back and forth. As we move around the different planes, go up a little bit higher. As we do this, the external force being added is easily transferred around the body because the tension is transferred throughout the whole body as a system. But this gets the muscles that we're going to use in our shooting loosened up, warmed up. I'm just looking at my mirror, by the way. Loosened up, warmed up, activated, and a little bit more sensory awareness. Let's reach really high up at the top with the band between our hands. A bit more sensory awareness of the muscles and bones, bits of the body that we're going to be using in the shot. Okay, so that's the first little bit of warm-up, first warm-up exercise, and now we'll do some drills just before we get into the follow-through. So we start, stood up tall, chest nice and open, and then we push down and forward with this hand and lift this elbow up. And then we lift up to the height of the eyes, pull the elbows apart, set down the barrel of the gun, transfer up and behind us. Lovely. You don't have to shoot, and remember you can just follow these exercises with your arms. Push down and away, head up, elbow out, lift it up, down, transfer up and back, and then shoot. So this time we're just going to come up and down a few times in that pushed out and away position with both arms. We keep lifting up and down. Imagine you've got a triangle, a line between the front, this hand here, and this elbow. This arm should bend out of it, if you see what I mean. As I go backwards and forwards, the arm is actually bent out slightly. I haven't made a direct line. There is a slight kink outwards at this wrist, and that comes from the rolled over wrist. This pushing forward of the front shoulder is really important. At this point, we activate the serratus anterior. That's the big muscle underneath the shoulder blade. And we push forward and down, activating the latissimus dorsi, the lats. We push down. Some people, you'll see this winging effect where their shoulder blade lifts up. We want to push down, so that can wing, don't worry. You pull the shoulder and the arm to the front of the shoulder joint. And then we lift up, pull the elbows down, and then we come back. At this point, we should have bone alignment. And we'll get on to the actual content of the video. Direction into the target. That means that at this point, we've got ourselves into line, or a feeling of line, because some people, I know my coach who would shoot with his thumb around his neck or with his thumb in behind his SCM, can make a feeling of line. Look at Oh Jin-hyuk. He's not in line, he shoots like this, but he's got a balance of forces through his body that he pushes against and makes a really nice execution. So you've got your feeling of line, which if you follow this, your feeling of line should be pretty solid. And now what we want to do is have spare space to expand into the front. I really like to work right from the front of the chest and push the shoulder forward. Interestingly, this was something I did before I learnt that we should push the bow into the target. I always heard, you know, back tension, pulling the bow back, set the shoulder, pull it back, etc. But because my back end had the tension and the square hand, I would squeeze really hard trying to send stuff that way, so trying to pull stuff back, but the shot wouldn't go anywhere. So I remember doing clicker review work with a camera, a feedback camera on it, a little delay on the screen, and I was wondering why this hand was moving forward. I was looking at the clicker, you know, quite fine up, and I could see against the brickwork beside me it was moving forward, and that's because you want to be pushing forward. One of the easiest ways to do it is to push directly and diagonally downwards. That's one that my coach Richard really likes, pulling down with the lat. Sometimes you can feel a tension here pulling down, sometimes it's more across and in, sometimes straight down. Works really nicely down to that foot. So push away, elbow out, raise up, elbows down, transfer the elbow behind you, and then we push that down to increase the force. And with a clinny band, this should be easy. You should be able to make quite a lot of movement, but that's fantastic because we just pump backwards and forwards, pulling down, and that trains this movement so that we can do it later on. One of the exercises I've done a lot with my bow training is letting my shoulders sink. I've said about this top left corner, letting my shoulders sink up and left, and then I can push it back forward and down, up and left, forward and down. Depends where your alignment is, how that works. Some people it's straight up and down here. Obviously I have a lot of spare mobility in that shoulder, having spent years working on it. This whole time we should be pressing into the front. At the moment we'll just relax and think about it from pushing into the whole front end, but that does also include your thumb. You can have a really, really good bit of pressure into the thumb, but with a clinny band slightly harder. Pressing forward the entire time. So you come up to full draw, you set your position, and then you probably will still pull through the back with the clicker, but I want you to be pressing forward and into the target. That is the direction into the target. So that then when the clicker goes off, the arm punches straight through into the target. What I say quite often is we've set up this plane of forces, this line of forces to direct an arrow into the target. When you shoot, you want to stay with that as long as you can. Imagine your arm gets stuck in honey. So we'll go through that shot a few times. Interestingly, if you've shot your clinny band before and it's gone anywhere, this will make it more accurate and go further, like it will. It proves that it works. So mine's just up against my thumb, and then pressure, 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 and then we send the arm forward. So that shot, that direction of extending, as Kim Tak-young talks about, is directed forward all the time, so that when the click happens, there is forward pressure to go into the target. Trust me, that's worth a lot of points. I may have oversold earlier to you, but controlling the follow through should come secondary to direction into the target. If you have good direction, if you send your arm forward into the target correctly, it should stay straight there. It works really well with the clinny band because there's no weight, you're only left with your arm afterwards, but your arm should fix in that position so that you have sent the arrow intentionally. You want a 10, send the arrow into the 10. Tell it you want a 10, okay? So seriously useful bit of knowledge that. Push, 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 push. And then we go straight forward, straight into the target. You'll see people with front shoulders. This activity should really help them keep that front shoulder down. We also being leant back can make it easier. Think compounds, they resist up against themselves like that, but it makes this shoulder push into the top of the body at an angle, so then it comes up. So you need more strength to hold yourself there. If you're struggling with a front shoulder, make sure to keep your posture straight and erect. So controlling the follow through is, if you pull directly down, your arm should fix there. That is one very, very useful attribute of using the lat down to the hip. I push, 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 straight into it. It's actually really fun. It's very rewarding. How, like, the difference between doing this regularly and doing it with direction, of letting go with the clinny band, is enormous. Absolutely huge. So, we'll go through a few sets. Push the shoulder across. As I come out, you can actually pull your shoulder into that position. So you see I can start here and then pull my shoulder across. The whole arm comes into line. Then we raise up, down to the elbows, transfer up and behind us, and then just come and get my clinny band. It feels really nice. Please have a good go practicing that. This pressure, and I'll do a few different ways to push into it, but you can come from up here, down and forward, or straight down to the hip, and you just shoot through it. I really hope you've enjoyed this this video. I'd really appreciate it if you could share it with your club mates. I know there's a lot of recurve archers would benefit from hearing an Olympian discuss how to direct into the target. It's probably the #1 thing to increase your scores technically. Reversals are the #1 thing to increase your scores overall, just because they increase your fitness so quickly. And I'll probably have some videos coming out fairly shortly, the next few days, about getting into some reversals, doing some really powerful archery fitness. But for the moment, if you could share this video, I'd really appreciate it. Any likes and comments about what you think of the technique, if you've been interested in any of the stuff I've been saying, would be fantastic. So stay safe, stay indoors, and stay happy.